Well, hello Rockhounds, Lapidary lovers. Mike here. Welcome back to my channel. What do we got going on today? Well, up on the bench today, I've got 5 small agates. And I'm going to cut these agates on my 10-inch Raytech trim saw and see if we can make something pretty out of them. Because as they sit, they're all pretty ugly. But I'll bet there's some beauty hiding inside each and every one of these. So what kind of agates we got here? Well, we got 3 of them here that I picked up in Tucson in February at the Tucson Gem and Mineral Show. Yeah, I got these 3 at the Rock Yard in Tucson. One of my last stops when I was there for the Gem and Mineral Show. I'll put a link to the playlist of all of the spots I visited during the week I was in Tucson. Up here in the upper right, you can check that out if you like. It's amazing. If you've never been to the Tucson Gem and Mineral Show, if you ever have a chance to go. Plan on being there for a few days. Plan on putting a lot of miles on your feet because it's spread out all over town and each venue is gigantic. So I got these 3 in Tucson. This is a Malawi agate. This is a Berber agate. And this is another Berber agate. So I think they're going to be huge when they're cut. Right now they're kind of ugly, but you can see the possibilities with the Malawi. And I think there's some possibilities with the Berber too. Over here, we've got a piece of, this I believe is Moroccan agate. Now, this is a piece that somebody has already carved on pretty much all sides of it. But as you can see, there is some good-looking stuff there. I got this in Tucson as well as part of a lot of Moroccan agates I bought. Really not worth much unless we can cut it on the trim saw and get some cabbable slabs out of it, which we're going to try to do. Then over here is graveyard point plume agate that my buddy Jim gave me. So we're going to try cutting it and exposing the loveliness inside too. With the graveyard point plume, I have found that just under the crust is where the most plumy stuff is. So we're going to try just cutting the crusts off of this and see what we can find inside. Where to start? Well, I think we're going to start with this Malawi just because it's up front. So let me get this in the Raytech. Now the Raytech saw is pretty slow. And especially if I have to make a couple of cuts on some of these to find the good stuff, this could take a while. This could take days. But don't worry, it'll all be edited together into one video for your viewing pleasure that won't be any longer than if the cuts didn't take very long at all. So let me get this in the Raytech and get it started. And we'll see if we can expose the purple loveliness inside this Malawi agate. Well, we're not off to a very auspicious start. I had to take like 3 or 4 cuts on this thing, and it just kept falling apart on me until I got to something that's, reasonably solid, although I still don't really like the looks of it. Certainly, I don't think I'm going to try and polish it, although it's very pretty. I'll give you a close-up look at it with my phone. But I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to throw the remains of the nodule and the bigger pieces here into my pile of rocks to tumble and let the tumbler turn them into something pretty. Because this has just got too many fractures in it to bother with trying to polish, and we lost another piece over here, broke off. So, yeah, I don't think that's ever going to be a pretty enough agate to really try and polish other than through tumbling. Let me give a close-up look at it with my phone. Yeah, so here we are. It's pretty. Don't get me wrong, it's pretty in there. It's just way too fractured. I mean, you can see some of the fracture lines there. It's just going to fall apart. If I try to tumble it, it might fall apart too, but the pieces will tumble. Yeah, here's some pieces that spalled off. I'm trying to get cuts on it before. That's some nice colors in there. Patterns. Yeah, I'll definitely tumble all this stuff. The rock will not go to waste. All right, let's find another rock to put in the Raytech and cut. So we got another agate here. Now, I think I called this a Berber agate, but I'm looking at it and I'm thinking, you know what? I think this is another Malawi. It might be another Malawi. So we'll put this in the Raytech and hopefully we'll do better. I see some fractures in it, but I think if I cut back here, hopefully I'll get behind them and we'll get a nice surface that might even be worthy of polishing. We'll see. Let me get this in the saw and get it started cutting. Well, that's a little better than the first one. We still had a little blowout over here, so it's not a perfect cut. But, wow, that's pretty. That's really pretty. And this piece that come off, I think I'll try tumbling it, although it has some fractures in it. It'll probably break up. But let me give you a close-up look at this on my phone. I think you'll be impressed with it. Yeah, so check this out. Look at that. That's nice. Yeah. Pretty cool. Pretty cool. I'm kind of bummed that this area blew out over here, so it's not like a perfect cut. What I'm thinking I might do is put it back in the saw and try to cut it across here, but that's what I was trying to do with the first agate, and after, 3-4 cuts, I'm just chasing my tail. It just keeps, spalling out on one side or the other. So I will think about that. We'll set this aside. Maybe I'll try cutting it again during this session, but I think we will move on to another rock for now. Let's try this Berber agate. I'm hoping if I cut it right across here, we can expose some loveliness inside. So let me get it in the saw and get it started cutting and see what we can find inside this thing. Alright, the Berber agate is cut. In fact, I cut it twice, and I'll show you why. First cut, almost nothing but quartz. We just had a little bit of agate down here, but I could see that only in the width of the saw blade the quartz pocket was getting a lot smaller. So I did another cut. And yeah, the quartz pocket has gone down to pretty much nothing, and we've got a lot of agate here. We got some strange orby stuff in here. I know there's a term for that, but I can't remember what it is. Leave a comment if you know what the term for these round orbs is. Anyway, I'll give you a close-up look at this with my phone, because I think it's turning into a pretty good agate here after a couple of cuts. I think polished it's going to be really cool. I'm tempted to go in a little bit deeper and see if I can expose some more of the stuff. I see tubes and orbs and bands in there, but who knows, what'll happen. When do you stop? Do you stop when it looks good, or do you keep going hoping to find spectacular? I'm not sure. It may be just good enough to stop. Anyway, let me give you a close-up look at this with my phone. Yeah, check it out. That's not too shabby. I mean, the bands are not super colorful, but I think polished it's going to show up a lot nicer. Got rid of that quartz pocket for the most part. There's a little quartz here and there, but it's mostly gone. Yeah, I'm really tempted to cut in a little deeper. Maybe another couple saw blades width, but I don't know. I'm going to stop for now, I think, and we'll move on to something else. I think that's pretty cool, and I think polished is going to be really pretty. So I guess we need another victim for the Raytech saw. So we got this piece of Moroccan sea maggot here, and somebody's already cut it on all 4 sides, and that side looks okay, but this side looks like it might have something spectacular in it. So I think I've got to put it in the Raytech and take some slices off of this side and see what they look like. If I get in a little ways I don't like it, I can always turn it 90 degrees and cut one of the other sides. So, yeah, that side looks pretty good too. But we're going to start with this side right here and see what we get. All right, well, slicing up this sea maggot went pretty well. I got, 1, 2, 3, 4 slices off of it. I mean, here's the heel right here. I think I picked the right side of it to slice, because it just got bigger and nicer inside as I went in. Then it started getting smaller again and petering out. But I don't think it's going to get any bigger again, because I can see all the way to this side it's getting pretty darn small. So I think I did okay on this. I'll give you a close-up look at this. And yeah, it's not perfect. It's got some issues, but it's pretty for a little cheap piece of Moroccan sea maggot I picked up in Tucson. Alright, so here's the first piece I cut. I wish this was a better cut, but it's spalled off here, because that right there is pretty nice. That right there is pretty nice. The other side, got some fractures running through it, but it's not too bad. Here's another cut. Again, it's Got a fracture running through it, but it's not too bad. I could see making a cab out of that area there. Here's the other side. What I might have to do is stabilize these if I'm going to cab them. Here's another cut. Again, got a fracture running through it. And there we started running out of material. But that's nice. There's a lot of detail there in those. Nice. And I've got the heel here, which I can throw in my tumble. I can tumble this piece too. It might break along that fracture. I may get two pieces out of it tumbled. So there's that. Oh, and we got something else special. Let me show you that. So, emboldened by my success with the Moroccan seam agate, I went and I recut this Malawi agate again. And I think it came out pretty darn good this time. I've got a whole face here that I can polish and make nice and shiny. I got another piece I can tumble here, which is going to be amazing, along with this piece. And again, I'll give you a close-up look at this with my phone. It's much prettier than you see on the camera here. Yeah, here we go. Look at that. Got a perfect face on there for polishing. Doesn't really look like it's got any fractures in it either, so that's nice. That's going to come out really, really nice. Nice pink in it, a little purple. Yeah, the colors are nicer to the eye than they are on the camera, unfortunately. I got another piece here I can tumble, and this piece here I can tumble. So that worked out pretty well. So, what are we going to do next? So the only rock I've got left I haven't cut so far is this piece of graveyard point plume I got from my buddy Jim. And you know, it may not look like much, but there's some good stuff in there. We just got to find it and bring it out, you know? There. So my experience with this material I got from Jim is if I just scratch off, you know, a very thin cut off of this surface here and a very thin cut off this surface here, the stuff immediately below is amazing. Don't get me wrong, it's cool all the way to the center, but the first real cut off of each side I think is where it's going to be the maximum pluminess. So let me get this in the saw. I'll probably try this side first. I'll just sort of clean up this side with a very shallow cut, and then I'll take a normal thickness cut off of it, and I'll bet that's going to be amazing. Then maybe I'll flip it around and do the same thing with this side. And I'll bet we'll get some good looking stuff out of it. Well, alright, that took a while on the Raytech to make all these cuts. So, let me show you what we got here. This was the first cut from the outer edge going in. And then this is the first cut underneath that. And I didn't quite get all the way through the crust on that first cut, but you can see all the pluminess on this side. There's a lot of transparent chalcedony. There's a lot of white pluminess in there. There's some yellow and orange pluminess too. That's cool. And then we get deeper into the rock here, and the pluminess starts to be less pronounced. And I don't know if it's showing up. I'll have to give you a close-up look with my phone. But we start getting actual more chalcedony with banding in it, deeper in. And then unfortunately, as we get deeper into the rock, I was hoping we'd get nice pluminess again as we're coming out the other side. But the rock had all these bugs in it, and it just turned into some ugly, crumbly stuff, although you can see a little bit of pluminess here. Anyway, let me give you a close-up look at this and show you what I'm talking about. And this is really pretty, and this is still really pretty, even though it's less plumy. And I think these are both cabbable. So let me give you a close-up look. Yeah, so here's the really plumy stuff right under the crust. Right here, you can see the edge of the crust there. And then there's the super plumy stuff right there. I think that's highly cabbable right there. I really do. I think that'll make some pretty cabs. And then deeper in, I took a thick cut because I figured the middle of the rock wouldn't be that impressive. I mean, it's still got some nice pluminess on here, so this might be cabbable. Over here, you can start to see that there's some actual banding in there, but then we're also starting to get into these bugs and voids in here, and the rock's just starting to get nasty and starting to fall apart as we go deeper in, although we still got some banding there. Kind of nice. And you can see the pluminess in there, but unfortunately it's just all these vugs from the host rock. This is really plumy, but again, there's really nothing I can do with it. And then this outer crust over here is just, you know, crumbly and nasty. But still, most of the pieces of graveyard plume I've cut, I've got the super plumy section on both sides, just under the crust. This side, this piece, it was only on one side. So yeah, crapshoot. You never know what you're going to get. But I'm pretty happy with these two pieces. If you can get two nice slabs out of a rock, I think you're doing pretty good. Alrighty, there we go. Not a bad day's cutting with my lapidary saws, I don't think. I've been wanting to cut this one up for a while and see what was inside. Too bad about that fracture running right through the really pretty stuff. But like I said, I might be able to stabilize this and then at least use it for practicing cabbing. So that's a possibility. This one here, I mean, I've got a nice face I can polish here, a couple nice pieces I can tumble. I got a couple of slabs here that will probably make nice cabs. This one here, I'm still debating cutting deeper on it and seeing if I can expose anything even prettier inside. I don't know. You know, I don't want to ruin what I've got. It could wind up worse. So, yeah, leave a comment. Tell me if you think I should cut a little deeper or just live with what I've got and polish it. Yeah. And then this one over here, this one's just going to be a tumbler. This and the pieces, and it may continue to fall apart as I'm tumbling it. That's just too fractured. But really, I am pretty happy with what I've got here. And it's always a good time when I can get the lapidary saws out and do some cutting. So I'm a happy boy. If you guys are happy with this video, give it a like, give it a thumbs up. And I'll see you in the next video where we'll be doing something else with rocks. So I'll see you then. Thanks for watching. Bye.